All right, we're back, and it is what, 2 March? God, March already. And let's see. Oh, this is video number 26, and I'm going to do a little bit more on the AI, maybe this whole video, and then we'll go into other documents and stuff after that. But the AI is incredible. Okay, the Perplexity one is really good. Perplexity AI, it combines all the major AI like Grok, Gemini. Isn't it funny they have a AI called Gemini, which I find funny, because that's related to the Atlanta Shellbreeders. But um, you have to be very, very cautious using the AI. It's a good place to start, okay? Because basically, like I said, the AI, they just, it's like, okay, it's like if I told 100 kids, okay, to go down a hallway with 100 or 1,000 different file cabinets, okay, and okay, you have 5 minutes to go through all the documents and pull me everything you can find about dogs. Okay, so you got 100 kids, 1,000 files, pull everything you can in 5 minutes about dogs. Okay, so you can imagine the chaos with that. So each kid would get what, a 5, 10 cabinets, and they would be going through every file drawer, pulling it out, scanning it. They'd have to pull out, look at the documents, and they got 5 minutes to look. Okay, maybe we give them 10 minutes, and then they would come all back, and they would just lay a pile of papers on the floor in front of you. So that's sort of what the mega crawlers were in the 90s, and sort of what Google does is it says, okay, before AI, it's okay. Well, this one comes up the most, or this one's accessed the most, or has the most visitors. So here, we'll put these up higher. Okay, but it doesn't mean anything. Just because a web page is the most popular doesn't mean it has the best evidence. And that's how it used to be. Now, what AI does, it takes all that information that all the kids get, and it organizes it into a narrative that's kind of flows, and it's from A to B, point, front to back, top to bottom. But you're just pulling random shit off the internet and throwing it up there, so it doesn't mean it's always correct. And also, so if you can imagine, so you've done that with the dog. Now you tell the same 100 kids, okay, go search through the files again and pull everything you can find on cats, and then it'll do all that and have the same thing, and it'll throw it at your feet, and then AI will kind of organize it. So what will happen though is that some of the papers from the dogs will get mixed up with the paper from the cats, and then the AI will put it together and say cats like to bark in the morning and like to chase cars. Okay, you see how crazy that sounds? And you may not understand what I'm talking about, but try it. Go to any AI and start searching for whatever topic you want to search, one subject, and then come back and start searching on another subject. It will start mixing some of the subjects up together unless you completely clear it off your history and start over completely new again. Okay? For instance, like I was looking up stuff on AI about my dad, and then I started looking up stuff on Michael Davis and the Sound Pit. And then, before you know it, it had my dad working at the Sound Pit as a musician and an engineer, according to the AI narrative, which I knew wasn't true. Okay? Because they were mixing my dad's name up. My dad's name had a C for a middle name, and this person had a W. Same name, just a W for the middle name. Okay, and I looked that guy up, and he was like in Wisconsin, and he was a musician, but he never worked for the sound pit. Okay, so it kind of scared me there for a while because I was like, oh my god, maybe that's how my mom actually met my dad. Was he was a musician at the studio, and her friend was dating him, and then her friend dumped him, and then he started dating her. Maybe that's what happened. But that couldn't be right because my dad was could barely hardly hold a note. Believe me, we go to church, and the dogs would start running away from the church, okay, and start howling outside. My dad couldn't hold the note. He wouldn't know what to do with the guitar if you hit him over the head with it, and he definitely didn't know anything about mixing music. Okay, so be warned, be careful. So anything, AI is a good place to start, but always verify everything. And one another thing you're going to find out is if you ask the same question today and then come back and ask the same question tomorrow, you're going to get different answers because it's constantly out there learning and searching, and it's not consistent. But it's a good place to start. Now, what I did find out, because I was using the app for Google AI on my phone, and I came up and I said, um, this is before this question. I said, who was the um, security company? I said this question right here. Who was the security company for the Omni during the 1970s? Okay, now it comes up with a different company, Barton Protective Services and Ackerman Security. But see, Barton Protective Services didn't start until 1974. Okay, and Ackerman Security, uh, they didn't do physical security. They only had like, um, burglar alarms, like ADT. Matter of fact, I think that's where they got ADT is from the Ackerman. But yesterday when I asked, it said that it was confidential security agency founded in 1972, the same year that the Omni, not the Omni International, but the Omni opened. Okay. Now, my mom, just to kind of put it in the timeline here, so my mom's working for, I think it was Pinkerton. I could be wrong, but I believe it was Pinkerton, 70, 71, part of 72 at Colony Square. That's where she met Roger Eugene Smith, because that's the office that I would go into on the 20th something floor with this big, you know, wooden wooden desk and couch and this big white um, bare rug carpet that I would play on. So that was Roger Eugene Smith. He was the lawyer for Michael Thevis. That's where I think she met Michael Thevis. My mom's a good looking blonde girl. Michael Thevis is always on scouting lookout for another girl to conquest. My mom, you know, well, I'm sure was interested in powerful men, and she's just a lowly security guard. Now she worked security like the weekends and then a couple of nights during the night, a week. Um, and then she had another job, I think, working either. She was working at the James Brown restaurant. I remember singing with James Brown in like '69 or '70 or something like that. I was just 4 years old, And then something happened to his restaurants, and then she was working with Shoney's up in Marietta, I believe. And then uh, she moved. But that's okay. She was dating this guy named Butch, and they lived in East Point in this loft apartment. And then Butch disappeared, and all of a sudden, my mom's hanging out with this guy because I would only come see her once a month, 1 week in a month. Okay, that's the time I got. Maybe a couple of weeks during the summer, Christmas, stuff like that. Most of the time, when my sister and my brother would come, it would just be us three hanging out, driving my mom's brand new car. We never, I don't think we ever went to the studio or saw Beavis because he didn't like a bunch of kids. Okay, the only time I saw Beavis is maybe once a month when my mom would get me, and then we'd go hang out with him during the day. We'd go to the zoo, we'd go to Stone Mountain, we'd go to some museum somewhere, Colony Square, someplace. Okay, we'd do something, or go to the Fox Theater and go to a movie, and then we'd always end up at the Sound Pit, you know, 10, 11, 12 at night, way past midnight, and I would sing with them and whatever group that it was a whole strew of groups coming through in 72, 73, 74. And so my mom worked there supposedly what she told me as a secretary. She answered the phone, she typed up memos. She didn't do anything with music production. She would book appointments for the studio and, you know, clerical stuff like that. Now, do I know this for a fact? No, I don't, because I was never there during the week when she was working. Okay. All I know is she wasn't working security anymore. And she told me she was working there during the week and that she had a brand new apartment and a brand new car. And this is her boyfriend, this bald guy that looked like Anton LaVey Satan to me. I thought he was the devil, Uncle Mickey. So in the end of 70, so the end of right after Thebus did his thing about buying the Fox Theater, that's when my mom and him split. After the summer, like September '74, I never saw Thebus again. Okay, and then that's when he got in trouble. He went to court. He got convicted of tax evasion and all kinds of other stuff. They didn't pin the murders on him yet. And, oh, interstate commerce of pornography. And that's when I didn't see him anymore. And then all of a sudden, all I knew is in December we got Christmas. My mom's moved. I didn't go see my mom from like September to December, but December, all of a sudden, my mom's got a new boyfriend. She's living in this trailer in back in Marietta, and that's all I remember. And then what? February, I'm taken out of school in Monroe and went to live with my mom, just me. And then my sister comes a week or two later. My brother didn't want to come at all, and he didn't show up until the summer. And in April, my mom and dad get married. This is '75. We move into a new apartment, Lake Regency Estate, down off Riverdale Road. And then, you know, my mom's working security again in '75, '76, maybe into '77. She's working security and at night, weekends, and but now she's working at the the Omni International. Okay, so she started. So she was working. We'll just back up here. She's working Pinkerton, Colony Square, 69, 70, 71, 72. About summer of '72, she's not doing anything like that until September of '74. She's working for Thebus at the Sound Pit. Okay, and then sometime in that fall, boom, she's back to working security again. But this time she's working right across from where Thebus's office was. Okay, at the Omni International. It's under construction at the end of '74. It takes about a year or so for it to open. Beginning of '76, slowly tenants are moving in. Sid and Marty Krofft opens up spring of '76 and it lasts one summer and then they're closed. All that time she's working security. I just assumed she went work back for Pinkerton, right? Maybe it was Pinkerton. I don't know, but according to this one right here, it says confidential security agency was founded, I guess, founded for the specific purpose of handling security for the Omni International. Now, along with the Omni, which my mom was working with, the Omni International 74, 75, into 74, 75, 76, at least 77. The reason why I say that is because 77, 78, we had foster kids. Okay. We had this, we had moved in a new house September of 76. Sometime before Star Wars, we started getting foster kids. Okay. My mom had a big heart. She loved kids. I guess it wasn't enough to save her own kids. She had to go out and save other people's kids. So, foster kids, the parents are beating each other. They're in jail. They're beating the kids, whatever they can't stay at home. So they put them in a foster home until they can find a relative to take them or to someone to adopt them. Most of these kids were, maybe my age or older. So I'm 11. Most of the kids were older than me. I think there was one kid that was maybe 10. And I just remember we had at least three kids at one time because the summer of 77, we went down to Jekyll Island. And right near the golf course there on the beach, they had this condo and a big condo, a big enough condo for me, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, and three foster kids. So that's what, six, eight. So we're like the fucking Brady Bunch, okay? Eight kids. We were all sleeping on the floor and sleeping on couches. So they had been at least a 2 or 3 bedroom condo, right? And the reason I'm saying all this is because she wouldn't have been working security as much then because apparently, I guess you get money for each kid from the state every month or the county or whatever. But that only lasted for about 2 years. And then my dad got in trouble. He embezzled a lot of money, I guess, to take care of the six of us. From Rogers Bridge Company, he got fired and ended up, you know, working at Joco. And then my mom ended up, we got rid of all the foster kids. And then my mom goes back to working at, at the Atlanta airport, Hilton. It was Spirit Rent a Car, and then it was Joco after a year or so. And then around that time, 77, after, 70, had to have been at least 78, 79, 78, probably 79. She's working security again because I remember we went to um, this sci-fi Star Trek convention at the Omni, and my brother's a sci-fi nerd, and so we went. And I went with him, tagged along, and my mom was there. And then she would tell us these stories about Pink Floyd concerts where they would bust people smoking dope and shit like that. So my mom was working there, but she also worked at the Omni International. Okay, so I don't know how much she was working. I know she was working at the Hilton from summer of 79 because, again, after the summer of 79, my dad got busted probably September. He's gone from Rogers Bridge Company. And then the next summer, because I would go every summer and cut the grass every weekend, and my dad would balance the books or steal money or whatever the hell he was doing on the weekends, you know. And but the summer of 1980, I didn't have a job because my dad wasn't working at Rogers Bridge Company anymore, and that's when they got me the job at the Dipper Dads. So my whole point of all this is this: this must have been the company that she went to work for at the Omni International when she stopped working at the Sound Pit, called Confidential Security Agency. It could have been Barton also, who knows? But one thing I found that's really, really interesting, okay? So I love asking these questions. So it says, what was the HQ address for con, con confidential. Sorry, I got to spell this out. We're doing live research here, folks. This is how you do it. It's not a lot of fun. It's not a flash in the pan TikTok video, but this is how it's done. And this AI stuff really helps. But again, trust, but verify. Don't always go with everything they say. And it made me give me a different answer today than it gave me yesterday. Okay? All right, there we go. So you see right there, 3108 Piedmont Road. Okay? So let's take that address. See, I just keep digging and I dig, and this is what AI can help you do, is can help you dig. And I dig and I dig and I dig and I dig and I make connections, and it's just fucking incredible. Okay? So hold on one second. Let me stop this. All right. So there's a method to this madness, and I'll show you. So this was the security agency, most likely that my mom worked for. It was definitely the security agency for the Omni and the Omni International. Its headquarters was located in Buckhead, 3108 Piedmont Road. And I'm not shitting you, folks. I about fell over when I saw this. Okay? If you zoom in, right there. Okay? So this is the property right here. Of course, right there used to be a Crystals. I used to go to this fucking Crystals all the time. My friend and I, we would, or maybe it was right there. Anyway, one of these buildings was a Crystals. My friend and I, we would come up, and because we couldn't afford to eat at Lennox because it's so expensive, we would eat at this Crystals. I think it was right there. And then there was a back road, East Paces Ferry Road, that used to go the back end of Lennox. And then we would just go to Lennox and walk around or, point at stuff that we couldn't afford. But this was the headquarters since 1972. Okay? And literally right here, okay, right there, that is Ed Garland's law office. You see the trees? Literally at the back end, his law office was moved there in 1972, the same year that this company was founded. The owner of this company, we're going to come across his name, was a good friend of Ed Garland. They were associates. Matter of fact, they had Ed Garland on retainer. Okay? So my mom most likely is working for the security company, okay, that when she left Davis and he went to jail, she went and worked for the same company whose the owner was the attorney for Michael Davis. Okay? Also, Ed Garland, close associate and intern, was none other than Mary Welcome, the attorney for Wayne Williams. Wayne Williams, the summer of 1980, when I ran into him, was listed as a security guard for three adult bookstores. Okay? One was the Cheshire Cat, which is off of Cheshire Bridge Road, which is just south of this. Two was Executive Parkway, was the Executive Bookstore, which is right off close to Roxbury and Executive Parkway, where the body of Patrick Baltazar was found. Remember, Patrick Baltazar went to the Omni Was last seen going to the Omni game room where my mom worked as a security guard. Was Wayne Williams working for this company, Confidential Security? The same company? I don't know. Wayne Williams also worked as a security, he was a roving security guard at the porn shop right across the street from the Dipper Dan's ice cream where I have been working, right next to the studio where he would take kids and record them, and was seen by the security guard who would come in my Dipper Dan's ice cream store and I'd give him free ice cream. And said in his testimony that he saw Wayne Williams come out of the Stewart Lakewood recording studio there, right across from the Dipper Dan's, and take a kid underage next door to the adult bookstore. Was in there over an hour. Now, I don't know about you, but you take a 10-year-old into just walk them into an adult bookstore, they're going to throw your ass out, tell you don't come back, can't come in here with kids, all this kind of shit. But he was able to stay there because he worked there as a fucking security guard. Is it the same company my mom worked for? Now, because of this information, and again, we'll just highlight, okay, let's just make it real clear right here. The police substation. The captain of this police substation from the 70s into the 80s, never arrested, but after he retired, was caught on tape by WSB on Cypress, notorious Cypress Street off of Peachtree, where they have all the male prostitutes. And he came up to a trans looking male prostitute. WSB had their cameras hidden undercover in a van, and they recorded him, this former police officer who had been the head of that substation right there in Buckhead, saying to the trans man, I want you to get in the car, and how much is it going to cost for you to whip me and beat me? And they confronted him with the tape, and he goes, I never said that. He was never arrested. He was never charged because he's retired. Okay? Right here is the Georgia Republican Party. Okay? Right there. All right? Right there, of course, is the law office of Ed Garland. Okay? We all know about that. Right there is the interior decorating office of Patricia McLean. She was the girlfriend of Michael Thieves. She took the money. Michael Thieves had his dad pull money out of a bank account. He gave it to Patricia McLean. She went and bought a shotgun and paid to have someone make a silencer for the shotgun. She was also seen with Michael Thieves after he broke out with another girlfriend, Ann Bartlett or whatever her name was, by a witness driving by the property where Roger Underhill would be gunned down with Thieves in the car. That's Patricia McLean. Now she's a socialite doing interior decorating, unknown that 50 years before she was hanging out with notorious pornographer and murderer Michael Thieves. Well, I mean, I shouldn't talk. My mom was doing the same thing too. Okay? And of course, we all know that right here, on this property right here, was the studio that Wayne Williams would bring the children. You know, some would ride the bus. We got an FBI statement that said they rode the bus and got off the bus here and walked down Shadow Lawn and went to the studio, and Wayne Williams recorded them, and they saw Wayne Williams loading electronic equipment into a green station wagon. You remember Louis Getter was seen getting in with Wayne Williams into a green station wagon? You remember another witness saw Wayne Williams with Investigator getting into a green station wagon the day before he disappeared. And on top of that, where there is a Trader Joe's now, used to be the notoriously owned strip club owned by the Giaconos. That got like now I can't remember the name. The the mob. This family begins with a G. Giaconos. Giaconos. I'm forgetting it right now. They own that strip club. Okay, right across from the church also. But the entrance was back here in the back lot, right? And there's a little tiny fence separating the back lot of this strip club from where Wayne Williams is bringing these kids to be recorded and pictures taken, all that. And guess who defended the Gold Club for its constitutional rights to exist? None other than Ed Garland, folks. And the guy who was the mob enforcer and runner of the Gold Club was a guy named Coppola. Okay. And we read over that paper of the Jewish lawyer, whose name escapes me right now, um, who worked undercover for the FBI, would wear a wire, go into the Gold Club, get all kinds of information on Coppola, okay, and had Coppola charged. And then this same lawyer goes and runs for solicitor of Fulton County, the same job that Mary Welcome had, but it was for the county instead of the city. Mary Welcome in the 70s worked as the Atlanta from 74 to 78 solicitor. And she was appointed to the job by Maynard Jackson after he received a very large political donation from none other than Michael Davis. And so this guy, it came out that he was touting his cribs as busting the mob because he would wear an undercover wire work for the FBI. And when Coppola found that out, he hired a guy to go put a bomb in this lawyer's car and blew him up when he came out to get in his car, blew his legs off. And we know all this because I read you a document where he was suing the government for some kind of retirement because he had worked undercover for the FBI and all this. He was trying to make a case for that. He lost his legs. All right, all this, and we're not even talking about the limelight yet. All this within a few blocks of where Wayne Williams is bringing all these kids. And then, of course, you got the limelight run by Gayton, whose lawyer, A.J. Block, was a good close friend of Ed Garland. Okay? Matter of fact, one of the bodies that they found, remember Patrick, the karate guy, Patrick. See, I gotta bring my list. This is what happens when I don't look at the names for a while. The guy who said he was going to go meet a guy named Wayne about music, and then he disappeared. It wasn't Patrick Baltazar, but Patrick ends up in the river, just literally 300 yards where they found the body, from where A.J. Block's office is, off of 1941 over there in Vinings. Just blocks away, folks. So the connections are fucking incredible. You never know what you will find. And of course, remember Gayton and the Limelight, and it was a notorious gay club. Remember I told you that I worked here at Tower Place, and I'd cut through here sometimes, and there'd be people having sex, male, homosexual and heterosexual, in the parking lot there, snorting drugs on the hood of cars in the parking lot there. Okay, And remember, Gayton was arrested. He was Canadian and opened up. He went back to went to New York and opened a limelight there, and was arrested in the '90s for running drugs for the mob, because that's what the mob does. They use these clubs. They come in and they say, "We're going to be your partner now." What do you mean you're going to be our partner? Yeah, whether you like it or not, you're going to give us 50% of the door, and or 25% of the door, or whatever. And we're going to make sure that you're going to use our vendors, and your club's going to stay open. You're going to get lots of business, and you're going to run drugs through this. Okay, but we'll give you protection, lawyer protection, all this stuff. Well, apparently, this Gayton guy went afoul of the mob and started skimming off the door, and so they withdrew their protection, informed the FBI. They went in, they busted him, and then he went to jail. When he got out of jail, he was deported back to Canada. Now his brother still ran the limelight to what, the late '80s, early '90s, or something like that. And his sister also ran it, but she's back in Canada now. She's like an artist, you know, forgetting about all the times when she sold drugs to the limelight. But anyway, so it's amazing what you can find using AI. But like I said, don't always trust it. Trust but verify, as Reagan used to say. There also was another address here, okay, at 1750, right there, okay, and we will go here, and we will enter that address. And see, I know all these addresses. See, if I was older and had been paying attention, instead of being 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and wondering about the next book or game or coloring book or whatever, I would have been a little bit more aware of what the fuck was going on. But I wasn't. It wasn't in my menu of the day. Okay. But anyway, this office right here, okay, for this security office is also the same building, okay, where this other attorney for Wayne Williams had his office, that my mom, God, I can't remember his name either. My mom went, he was a close associate with Axum. Remember, Axum got fired by Mary Welcome. But my mom went to him, was referred to him by Thievis and Roger Smith, because he could handle divorces. And just like Axum, remember Axum got arrested and disbarred for handling large sums of cash, getting transfers of large sums of cash for his clients, not reporting it to the FBI, and keeping it in his bank account. He got disbarred for that. Was it Gayton? No, not Gayton. Excuse me. I can't. Fryer, I believe is his name. And I remember his name because I was trying to, 72. I'm in first grade. I'm trying to learn all these damn letters, and I mean, who cares what letters are? I can speak. I know words. When you're 6 years old, that's all you think about. That's all I care about. Who cares about what a letter's shape is or writing it? But so I was having such a hard time, and then as my mom's in the office with him talking about probably, you know, getting custody of me back from my dad, um, I'm looking at this big diploma on the wall. It's got his name, Fryer, Frerier, something like that. Fryer, whatever the hell his name was. And I'm trying to, I got a pen and a piece of paper trying to write his name and do the letters. I remember I would like try to spell my name. My mom would spell my name, Dino. She would spell it out for me on a big piece of paper, really big letters at the top. And then, she showed me how to take the pen and kind of go around where she wrote and copy how I did it, and then she take the pen and put it on the paper and say, okay, now do what you just did on your own, and it just came out like fucking chicken scratch. But now my internet's not working. I got really super fast fucking internet now, and now just you see this AI pulls a lot off your internet. But hold on one second. But yeah, you remember Fryer? He got in trouble. You remember Fryer? He got in trouble because he was what happened with Fryer? There was not well before he got in trouble in the 80s. There was this spy couple, this Czech couple in Washington D.C., and they got busted and they were in prison for espionage. And some of his mob contacts in New York contacted the lawyer there that he knew, and for some reason contacted Fryer. And I guess Fryer had contacts with the CIA and the State Department and the FBI, which I find interesting. Um, and the mob wanted to get free three people that had been working for them running drugs through Eastern Europe, and they got busted in Czechoslovakia. There were two Germans and one American. They were running heroin, okay, through the Soviet Union. They in the Eastern Bloc they could make a lot of money doing that. But they got busted, and so they came up with an idea that they would exchange these two prisoners for the American and the German, and then I think the Germans had some Czech guy also, a Russian guy. And Fryer, through his contacts in the FBI and the CIA, put that forward, and then they ran with it, and then those guys got released. Now, why the mob contacted this lawyer, and why this lawyer contacted Fryer? That means that they had done stuff together with the FBI before to those guys. That's what that tells you. That the mob had worked with the CIA, either assassinations or something, and that's why they were using those in between, so it wasn't so obvious that the mob was talking directly with the government. So they use these lawyers as in betweens. But Fryer, okay, and how it worked in the newspaper article, it said that Mary Welcome or Homer Williams contacted Mary Welcome. Mary Welcome contacted Axon. Axon was friends with Fryer, and Fryer was friends with Ed Garland, which is all bullshit. That's all bullshit. What really happened was Wayne Williams got on the fucking phone and called Ed Garland and said, "You better get my ass out of here, or I'm going to spill every fucking thing I got to the government about you and Jimmy Jen and Michael Thieves and all these other politicians and people and police that have been diddling all these little kids. I've been bringing them the kids, and they've been telling me to get rid of them, and I've been killing them, getting rid of them. So there are no witnesses. So somebody better help my ass out because, again, let's just remind you. God, this is just going to spin all goddamn day. Let's just remind everyone, okay? Ed Garland, okay, minimum case in the 1980s, minimum retainer fee was $50,000 at $500 a day. You think Wayne Williams had $500 a day? You think Homer Williams and his wife, who's dying of cancer, had $500 a day to help Wayne Williams? So why the fuck would Ed Garland, who handles mobsters, drug dealers, rich basketball players recently, that guy, I just read one thing where he did remember that Midnight in the Garden of Evil? That one about the guy, the lawyer who killed the guy in Savannah, the gay guy? That was Ed Garland that handled that case. So why would Ed Garland all of a sudden help this destitute child serial killer? It, regardless of the money, it's way outside of his bailiwick, right? He doesn't have anything in common with this guy. So how it happened was Ed Garland picked Mary Welcome as the blackface, the mother, because he looked at the jury and he knew he couldn't walk in there and defend Wayne Williams. So he got Mary Welcome as the black female face because the majority of the jurors were female and black. And then he brought in, you know, with it's like this, folks. If it's just like the mob, but we'll just say in business. If your sales manager and he'll go to his sales team leader for a certain type of sales and say, look, I want him to do this, I want him to do it that way, and they got to make this money, here's the commission. He sets the rules. Now you go build the team. And then that guy goes out and he builds the team, he finds the people that can do the job that the boss wants done. Ed Garland was the mob boss. Fryer and Axum were just, you know, the guys working it. And Mary Welcome was the friendly face. Okay? So anyway, God, that just really spun a lot. I don't know why it just wouldn't come up at all. But that's another thing. Just be very careful. It pulls a lot on this one. So that's the shit, man. That's what's going on there. So let me just recap. We got 12 minutes. I'm going to recap on this. And you wouldn't know any of this unless you had lived my life and knew what I knew. And again, I don't know a lot. I was just some fucking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid at the time. I never put it together until just the last few years. And I'm still, every day I'm learning something new. And it's a, oh my God, what the fuck moment. Okay? So this is the whole essence of the case. Okay? Wayne Williams was a cog in the wheel of everything that was going on in Atlanta and across the country involving child pornography, trafficking, what we call trafficking of children, child prostitution, and like I said in the last video about Epstein. Epstein was like Wayne Williams on fucking steroids. I'm sure Epstein didn't know who pulled the strings. All he knows is he got money to blackmail people. Let's get this rich guy in here. Let's get this powerful guy in there. Let's get this senator, this president, this congressman down on my island, wired for sound. Then, I've got that angle, and then I'm bringing in these girls promising, just like Gemini, are going to get you, he was promising to get girls into dentistry school. One girl, he got into dentistry school and paid for her entire dentistry school. Got her a fucking dentist chair at goddamn that little St. James Island down there. There's a fucking mask, a face mask of Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, on the fucking wall of the dentist chair. Office, excuse me. So Epstein had his finger in pies all around the world, folks. He was blackmailing the former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson. Why do you think they never dug at Zora Ranch in New Mexico? So, but Epstein handled a certain clientele. White guys looking for young, white, blonde girls. Wayne Williams handled another clientele. Young people that are looking for young black little boys. Okay? And that's another thing when you read through the Epstein files, you find out political parties, racial divide, political divide, us versus them, poor versus rich, Republicans versus Democrats, conservatives versus liberals, MAGA versus whatever. It's all bullshit. It's all contrived. They're all working together to manipulate us all, to keep us at each other's throats so we don't see who the real enemy is. It's like the fucking Hunger Games, folks. Remember in the Hunger Games? Remember that? Don't forget who the real enemy is. Snow's got us at each other's throats in the Hunger Games. He played each district off each other, made the resources, less. The district, the capital got all the money, right? Everyone else was fighting for scraps, and they were willing to kill each other in order to get double the scraps, okay? So that they wouldn't starve that year. This is exactly what Epstein and his powerful elites have been doing to us. And I'm sure it went back all the way before Wayne Williams and before that. Now, I'm not saying it's some grand satanic cabal. I don't even believe the satanic angle. I think they throw that shit in there just for fear, the fear factor. Also, if you're some congressman and you're seeing, dancing around a statue of Moloch, or I don't know, saying satanic prayers while you got a knife over a 12-year-old before you're about to stab them, there's no way of getting out of that. It's not like because, like I said, before the Epstein files, I thought it was just a bunch of perverted old men having sex with teenage girls. But it's much, much more than that. So Wayne Williams was just one little cog in the wheel. Now, what happened is that Wayne Williams got into the limelight of it. So again, my scenario is that somehow Wayne Williams got turned on, probably by Jimmy Ginn, into the child pornography ring. He started recruiting all these kids, putting out the flyers, doing the portfolio, taking the pictures, passing the portfolio around, just like Epstein was doing. Epstein had a portfolio of models that he would send out emails. Which one do you want tonight? They got another guy who's the head of some corporation. Epstein's like, so how did you like the Snow White? Oh, Snow White was great. Oh, wow. She sure did make a lot of noise. And then Epstein sends them, like, they have a painting of him naked in a towel with a girl underage dressed like Snow White in bed, passed out. So he was, you know, giving to his clients' needs there. This is what I think Wayne Williams was doing. He found a way. How do you rent 5 fucking music studios at $500 a month when you're not making any fucking money doing recording? Where was he getting his money? He wasn't getting it from Homer. Okay? Like I said, Homer's wife is sick and coughing up blood, dying of lung cancer, and he's going to be passing out $2,000 a month to his loser son to go not record any albums for 3 or 4 fucking years and not start his Gemini group? I don't think so. So Wayne was working for Jimmy Ginn and Michael Thevis, and they had rich clientele they were providing a product to. Wayne was siphoning him and giving him pornography from young black kids. That other guy that got busted down in South Lakewood area, the white guy, he was supplying him with white boys. Okay, there were probably many, 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 many others. Just like remember that guy working with Dean Coral that was providing him with kids. You know, all these groups are loosely affiliated and connected. You got a demand, you got suppliers, you got perverted rich elite. Okay, you got suppliers like Thievis and Jimmy Jim. You got producers like Wayne Williams and that guy in Lakewood, and there are many, many others. Okay, this is what's going on. This is what happened. What I think happened is they keep all that on the download. Did you know that Jeffrey Epstein, right after he got um, arrested in 2000, or got charged, ordered something like, was it 50? 50 drums of, I can't remember the acid, it was like hydrochloric acid or something. And it's basically, if you take a body, any organic material, and put in that barrel, it will completely gellify it, where there's nothing left. And then you just take it and dump it in the stream or lake somewhere. Body gone. What do you think happened to, you know, some of these other children? So this is what I think was happening. They were grooming these kids, getting them involved in pornography, videotaping it, shaming them, putting the fear of God through them. Some threatened to talk or wanted more money or whatever, got fearful, and they had to be eliminated. So they had Wayne eliminate them. That's what I think happened. That's what he was doing. First, he started off, it's like, okay, bring us kids. Now it's, oh shit, some of these kids are talking. You got to get rid of that one. Well, what do you mean I got to get rid of him? Well, you're the one who brought him to us. You fucking idiot. Then it's your problem. You take care of it, or we're going to take care of you. And it could be that's the way it started. The first one was an execution. Remember, he got shot in the back. Then he realized that was too loud. And then as he progressed into it, he started to enjoy the power and liked it. And also, he was a little fearful. If you didn't kill them, they were going to kill him. But I think he was smart, and he kept photos, and he kept video, and he kept sound recordings enough to blackmail whoever was running it with him. Okay? It also could have been he just really got into killing and getting off on killing kids, and they said, shit, we got to shut this shit down. Because he's just going crazy. We got to bring him in. It could be one of those scenarios. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. But like I said in my last video, I guarantee you somewhere in Atlanta, or maybe another state, there is a bank vault with a safe deposit box under a different name, set up by Homer Williams or set up by somebody, or Wayne Williams, with pictures and a written statement. And Wayne Williams has told them that it's out there. And if anything happens to me upon my death, this is going to be released, and all you motherfuckers are going to jail. Allegedly. But again, caution when using AI. It's a good tool to start, but always double check and verify. Like I said, these addresses change and the names change every fucking day. All right, take care, folks. Next time we're going to do some more documents. That's enough of the AI stuff. All right. Again, it just goes to show you there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same shit, just a different person, different day. Bye bye.